Thank you for being here on this third day of the 12th session or the 12th edition of the South School of Internet Governance. We have a day that involves cybersecurity, cybercrime with our keynote speakers. The program right now becomes more technical and then social issues and more strategic issues like ethics, and other topics. And we have a keynote speaker for the region that is Oscar Robles Garay. He's a good fellow. He always supporting the school. He plays a key role in presiding a very important organization for the region. I don't know if you remember yesterday's presentation addressed by Nicolas Antoniello and Icon's presentation. There was something that they mentioned that was IP addresses and the good thing for the operation of or the good operation of internet. And if you ever need IP addresses to find servers and websites, what are you going to find? Can I request it to the government? No. NIC Argentina? No. Do you buy them in the grocery store? No. So where are you going to find the strategic resource that is so critical for the operation of the internet? In our region, the organization that is responsible for that is LACNIC, that is the Regional Internet Registry, and Oscar presides this important crucial organization for our region, and is the right now that it provides us with virtual events, the internet. It's great that we have this organization. Let me welcome Oscar, that is fully supportive of our organization and our school. He wrote a book, and I know that LACNIC is organizing large meetings during the year, and precisely this meeting, we have the LACNIC meeting. So thank you for squeezing in your topic in your busy agenda. I don't know where you're going to hold this meeting, but I know that it's a virtual meeting right now. We have a lot of people in the attendance right now. We have 34 countries present in this virtual event, so let's welcome you. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking part in the South School of Internet Governance. It's a great pleasure to be here. Hope you're healthy. And thank you for inviting me to participate addressing this talk. I wanted to talk precisely about the challenges that we're faced with in the region in connection with internet development. I didn't know where to start since we have many, many challenges ahead of us. Some of them are out of our scope of influence. So I wanted to spend some time to talk about some of the challenges that I see that there's more likelihood to be involved with, especially for those that are very, very involved and committed to these topics. I'm going to share the four challenges or the four pillars. Let me share my presentation so we can review these topics. Can you see the presentation? Okay, good. Thank you. So let me address the four challenges. We have the challenge of access or social inclusion or digital inclusion. Then involving academia, I'm going to tell you how it becomes relevant during these times. Also, the challenge of accelerating IPv6 deployment. This is not a technical and it's not something related to the engineers or architecture that it becomes with clean architecture. Right now is has become a strategic for the state. And then finally, another challenge encompasses other challenges in the region that is an issue that revolves around the whole world and is sustainable decision making. First of all, first and foremost, before delving into these topics, as Olga has introduced me, let me address LACNIC. It's one of the five regional registries responsible for domain name or domain numbers. Those are the numbers that devices use, whether it is a smartphone or a PC, wearable, any device, sensor in the 4.0 industry, in farms, a traffic light, a supercomputer, a satellite, geostationary satellite that it connects remotely to the internet. So all these sort of devices connected to the internet require a numeric or a number ID. And LACNIC is the one that is a not-for-profit organization established in Norway since 2002. We have more than 11,000 members in 33 countries in the region. So we have carriers, ISPs, internet service providers, large and small ones. In sometimes are small and remote enough in the mountains in the Andes, and companies, business, academia, and governments have final users. So, in case you have a question, let me address now the first challenge. The challenge is how we achieve digital inclusion in areas that are not that do not employ some business for the traditional carriers. If we cannot include that 50% of that population is because it's not a business for carriers. That is sad. However, we need to think that if they are not going to be of interest, they probably won't be in the future either. So we need to target to 5G solutions, and we're far from connecting these areas with 5G because it provides higher speed with higher density of antennas or radios for densely populated or highly populated areas with a high socioeconomic level. And 5G coverage is going to be smaller than 4G and smaller than 3G. So that is not a solution for having and providing access to the region. And if we consider that the Latin America and the Caribbean is one of the highly affected areas that are highly punished, probably is on average $6 or $8 on a monthly basis, we see that this is highly affected, imposes a greater challenge, and it's not really likely that the solutions are going to come with a traditional way of solving things. Now, providing access to remote places like the rural sector or in the most vulnerable sectors of society is not going to come out of the traditional model. It requires creative, diverse solutions, innovative solutions. So the state plays or should play a key role. It would help with the digital strategies at the national level, at least, could consider this, like promoting digital inclusion with creative solutions and to place priority upon digital inclusion instead of spectrum collection because the operator or the carrier doesn't know if they are ready to collect revenue or if they promote social or digital inclusion. If they target to digital inclusion, it's going to be more. It will be a more strategic and effective digital strategy. But it shouldn't come from the state only or from the part of carriers. The community plays a key role as well. We heard about community solutions through community networks where some of the inhabitants found a solution and they required the state or the regulatory agencies to have some regulation in place that would facilitate the use of these resources to have entities that are non-for-profit and they do not trade these services, like for example the rural sector or the indigenous aboriginous people have had very good results having permits to exploit a secondary frequency. I believe this happened in Mexico and in Argentina and probably in some other countries in our region. In Brazil, they involve the community in this way. This indicates with the blue line that we have the market share here on the right of small ISPs. In blue, you can see that it grew the in versus market share of the large carriers. There are more than 15,000 small SMEs or small ISPs just in Brazil. So it's a huge market because of its size, but it gives us an idea of the way that the rest of the community has become involved in order to provide a solution. It didn't come out of the traditional carriers, nor by the state, or neither by the state nor from regulations. And I see that some other countries in the region, precisely Mexico and Argentina, have been promoting that the regulators could facilitate that ISPs could retrade or remarket the incumbent services without being illicit or illegal services. A clear example of this of how 15,000 carriers or ISPs reached 60% of the coverage in such a large country and socially diverse such as Brazil. Another thing is large companies with major projects like low orbit satellites or high orbit satellites, having a mechanism to irradiate or transmit the internet in remote areas. We have 3 or 4 initiatives underway. I'm sure that you have heard about that. So you may think that if these are solutions that could be reached by large companies as well. For example, the Kambal project, that is the website wifi.org. It's a very simple project organized by Mexicans carrying the internet to the rural sector, to some schools that are located in farms. So basically, they have Wikipedia, educational videos, tens of thousands and millions of articles. They place that in a small computer, and they take it physically. They take physically the device to these schools. So having this, they have a way of having the internet. It's not the internet as we know it. However, it's something better than the thing that they have because they lack having access to these resources. So this kind of creative solutions serve this challenge. And I'm fully convinced that there should be in the region many more ideas in this regard that may contribute to tackle this challenge. It's not only that we need to resolve on the part of the state or on the from the carrier's point of view. The other thing is how do we involved academia involved in this connected internet connected topic and tap its role neutral role Because if we trace back to the 80s and then to the 90s, the academic sector was strictly linked to the efforts made of connectivity by our countries. And here we have 12 countries in which the academic sector played a key role that they led the connectivity of the internet. Here you have the list. There may be another country that is not included here. It's not an exhaustive list. However, this provides enough evidence that this academic sector played at that time. So we may think that this is not so much transcendental. It may not be today. However, if we trace back to 30 years ago, this decision was less natural of what it is today. And it was not only less natural, but it was riskier because we have thousands of organizations. Universities did not have connectivity. We require many resources, and the cost was very high. So the possibility of failing was pretty high. However, universities became innovators and played a key role in leading change and a paradigm shift in communications, and they were basically playing a key role in leadership through this connection. And I believe academia should keep playing this key role, becoming involved in these topics that we are analyzing. Since it is neutral, because it's not an economic stakeholder, business stakeholder, they play a key role in the development of the internet, in interconnection by defining standards, innovation, best practices, and in security. Not only do they have or do they play a key neutral role from the business point of view, but also they may gather different ways of thinking, idiosyncrasies, political ideologies in a widespread sector in the community. I'm not going to delve into details that I am addressing here. However, I'm going to mention quite a few to exemplify why the academia needs to keep a role of leadership. I know that sometimes they keep this role, it's not new to them, but it's an ongoing effort. However, if some academicians are here present, probably they could wonder if they could play a key, more predominant role. For example, in interconnection of red networks. Even though the academic sector has their own or have their own networks with advanced networks among countries where they have their own interconnectivity, they shouldn't behave as final users because the final users connect to the carriers or an ISP and that's it. So that is the objective. They are connected to the internet and that's it. However, they may have a backup connection just in case there's a lack of connectivity. However, these universities should consider the possibility of being interconnected to other carriers because they have a very widespread community. They are very active. Then they act as an access provider connecting a community that is pretty large. So if we interconnect that with other operators or largers, this would result in internal benefits for teachers, students, and employees. They are being connected out of their homes, cafeteria, restaurants, and different ISPs, and they may enjoy a better connectivity to resources. If they are not interconnected today, given the pandemic today, the teachers and their communities connected out of their own network, they are having difficult connectivity issues or major connectivity issues to their resources. So the major challenge is an internal challenge here. However, the larger benefit is for the community because once they establish multiple interconnection points at the local level, they may gather an increasingly number of stakeholders where they may share an access point. And in some of the countries, this has been formalized by traffic exchange points or IXPs locally and regionally. It promotes also a more effective interconnection, reduces latency, that is a delay that we have in many applications. Gamers are going to enjoy this. Not only for it's going to be good for entertainment, but also for security and applications that demand lower latency. And it also promotes building upon a technical community since we gather many stakeholders discussing the operation or the interoperation or interoperability of the internet. This is just one of the challenges. Also, we have standards or global standards definition and how they can contribute to developing this collaborative initiative that is the internet and from the neutral standpoint. In terms of innovation, for example, we have multiple solutions over the internet that, given its nature, is difficult for companies to deploy that at first. And the academic sector is a natural platform for innovations like IPv6, then SEC, RPKI, BGPSEC, NTS will become more stable and robust. Operational best practices like implementing their own policies, and then security, which is not a minor technology issue. It requires technological tools, know how, and it's a key element in serving the incidents is the coordination of all the stakeholders or the actors that participate in the connectivity, asset management that are key for this community. And the academia keys plays a key neutral fundamental role that is a key element to reach that collaboration with the stakeholders, whether it is government, the financial sector, businesses, academic sector. So not only plays a key role in their own response center, but also in the local response centers and promoting other response centers at the business level, industry, and sectorial level in a way to contribute to developing society. And these are some of the key aspects that we could all benefit from if academia plays this role and maintains this role in the event or in the cases where they were able to keep playing this role. And then we have the acceleration of IPv6 deployment. I know that we have revolved around this issue being LACNIC, but let me tell you why this has become strategic. The level of global IPv6 development is that one out of the three packets that are carried over the internet is already IPv6. And this may be good or bad, but one out of four packets is for Latin America. We're more or less in the same orders. One out of four in Latin America is already IPv6. Now, the issue is that since we have averages, we have high levels for Mexico, Uruguay, Brazil, Ecuador, and Peru that are pretty high, but the rest of the countries have lower levels. Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, that are smaller countries, and that any change could change these trends. But out of the 33 countries, we have only five that are in these levels, and sometimes they have very, very low levels. But why does it become strategic? Why is it important for people that are not that technical? First of all, we need to consider that we need to connect more than 220 million people in our region. And 6 months ago, there were only 1 million IPv4 addresses left Right now, it's worse. There are no longer any IPv4 addresses. Yesterday, as Olga was saying, we reported the depletion of the IPv4 space. For practical purposes, sometimes we recover one, it may be delegated. However, we do not have any. The 2,000 delegations that we did in a year, we do not have any more. And probably we could delegate 10% in the next 12 months out of the 2,000 delegations that we did on a routine basis. If we want to connect all these people in the next years, we better have social inclusion projects and access projects in place that are targeted to IPv6. Otherwise, they're going to fail. If the state has a digital coverage, they need to consider IPv6. If not, they're going to fail. So let's be positive. For social digital inclusion initiative should be designed on IPv6. The second reason why this is strategic is that if we cannot cover the 220 people that we have, we cannot connect tens of thousands of or millions of internet devices that are going to be connected with Internet of Things. It's not science fiction. It's not having the crystal ball. This has become a reality. We estimate that we have more than 5 or million or 10 million internet devices like the Internet of Things, smart city solutions, Industry 4.0, wearables, and the different smart homes, sensors, with all the bells and whistles. Sometimes they stack an IP and they may have their own IP. So it's going to be tens of millions of devices being connected. If we want to enjoy or tap fulfilling the promise of the Internet of Things in the next few years, we better consider IPv6 and to accelerate its deployment in order to fulfill the promise of the Internet of Things, smart cities, Industry 4.0, wearables, etc. And lastly, the third reason why this has become strategic is because IPv4 cannot enable the traceability of transactions before the crime commission. If we ever had a crime committed in IPv4, it would be difficult by the institutions or the enforcement law institution or agencies could identify those people that made that transaction. Since it doesn't have this characteristic or feature, it promotes that the state creates massive over vigilance. It may be an excuse, but we shouldn't have any excuses. With IPv6, we'll create privacy, and there's no excuse to have this over vigilance on the part of the state on the internet given the current situation. That's why, because of these three things, IPv6 has become strategic, and we think that this is a wake up call, especially right now that IPv4 has been depleted. One of the variables that we should consider for carriers, telecommunication carriers, is not how much benefits or what's in for me when we finish deploying it, but we need to make sure to factor in the equation all these costs, like maintaining IPv4 addresses. There are many costs that are not being considered. So therefore, the decision-making process has been incomplete. And they fail to realize that they are assuming or assuming higher costs with the deployment of IPv4. Is IPv6 for everybody? Yes, it is. But does it work for everybody? Unfortunately, it does not. However, there are many carriers that they have been deploying IPv6 gradually, and it can be used without any difficulties, and it's proven that this is sustainable and interoperable. IPv6 solutions is not something that ISPs can do or users can do, but it implies more benefits for the stakeholders. So it is important that these efforts made could be promoted as we've done in the past, or we did in the past in Argentina with this coalition to deploy IPv6. They did a very, very good, that provided us, or they had very, very good results when we made these efforts. Lastly, the challenge on sustainable decision making. In the near future, or sooner rather than later, developed countries are going to be those that make sustainable decisions in time because we have limited resources, increasingly limited. Opportunities to try this are going to be limited, and there are going to be zero opportunities to fail because there are more complex decisions that does not allow to have costly smart solutions that will take a lot to roll them out. And especially in the case of failure, they do not work. So the decision making process should be more sustainable in time, having more smarter regulations. The lack of regulation is more intelligent sometimes. Smarter or more intelligent citizens, but not from the cognitive point of view, but fully committed, involved in the citizenry and in the political will, interested in their own rights. Where large corporations could become smarter also, but we're not talking about that they should be more intelligent and or do more business. No, they should be less ambitious and more involved in the long-term sustainability than in the quarterly results, providing a better service to the community and the decision-making process embedded in the internet. That was the open internet that opened so many opportunities. And it's not an internet that they are promoting, well, or that they are creating that is a closed, more regulated internet, having the fear with the privacy issues and some of the challenges that implies. Also, smarter governments involving multi stakeholders in aspects that transcend the technological point of view. The solutions provided or served by the state are not a solutions. They have a multi-pillar, multi-dimensions solution, including multi-holders, like for example, urban mobility, exploitation, and the use of natural resources, environment, the country trademark, massive over vigilance and digital security should involve multi-stakeholders on the part of the state that they are affected by the decisions that states make. And it's not only the ISPs or the private sector initiative, because always we have an economic interest at stake there. It's okay, but you should involve neutral stakeholders like the academic sector. And if we include these people proactively, it could become a transcendental stakeholder to strike a balance with the discussions in forums. And finally, to draw some conclusions, I told you four challenges that require the involvement of these stakeholders. Some of them highly focus on academia because it's the main stakeholder in our daily lives in Latin America. I hope our hopes and expectations are that they assume that role or that they keep the key leading role, depending on the university. But we users should be involved, pursuing solutions for access, promoting solutions to deploy IPv6, and also to participate actively in our communities. Sometimes we complain or we are critical of the economies of our region or of our country pursuing development compared to central countries. And here we have three or four opportunities or challenges that they may affect the development of the internet, and eventually we could affect the development or promote the development of society. Thank you very much. I think you cover all the topics of the School of Internet Governance. especially what you mentioned in terms of IPv6. That may be the great wave of demand of IPv6 addresses, like because of the Internet of Things, smart cities. So the role played by LACNIC is fundamental. So I urge you to visit their website because you have a lot of schools taught in different languages. You have a three language website which could benefit users that want to have access to this content. I'm sure that you're going to request or people are going to request your presentation. So if you can share the PowerPoint with us, we can share it in turn with some of the students. Unfortunately, I have two people waiting in the waiting room. So I wish you the best for the LACNIC meeting. Greetings and thank you very much for being here and for fully supporting our school. Thank you very much and thank you for the presentation. Oscar and Adrian say hi. They're here. Thank you very much. Thank you, Oscar and Adrian. And I wish you the best. Stay healthy. Thank you. Let's go for a break. And we will have later Christopher Painter and Olaf Coleman from the GFCE Foundation Board.